Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and pon the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cop, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
My name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cop, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data. I have none.
You could probably, on the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel out to the sea. So you make a slight concession in the maritime area.
All right, good evening. It's Monday. It's the 18th day of March. Look, it's the third month going on the what is it? Going on the fourth month pretty soon. I don't know what's going on. 2024 is just moving rapidly. It reminds me when I was a little boy on the quarantine, I was the best sprinter on the entire quarantine from Wellington Park Primary, Alnis Primary. I was the best sprinter, even from nursery school. I remember my nursery school days, and you guys could find a nursery school, Mr. Ross Nursery School at Alnis Village. At least I can find my nursery school. Some of them can't even find their universities. Anyways, good evening and welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benshop. I have two guests this evening. Mr. Eglin Gomes, PNCR member, and we have Mr. Christopher Johnson, also PNCR member. They are going to basically be talking about the state of the party and the way forward. Some may share the same views, some may not, but it's okay. Herney Park, you already know. Ask your brother Garfield. Ask Garfield when we used to play cricket right in that empty spot. I was the best cricketer on the quarantine also. All right, Ernie, hope all is well with you and the family. Give my regards to your mom, Auntie Mildred. All right, so it's not a Best Buy request program, but I noticed Ernie Park. I knew him since he was a little boy. He used to dig a couple of jalapeno and he used to run, but now he's a big guy. He is representing folks on the quarantine. He's representing Gaisuko workers. Great job. Great job. Um, all right, so Christopher Johnson, we're waiting for him so that we can see his camera. Uh, there we go, so that we can rock and roll this evening. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I noticed Wayne W. Caesar had a good show. Over to you. Good show. Wayne is just getting better and better. Thank you so much, Wayne, for your time, for your commitment, and thanks to all of our listeners as well. Leighton Charles is on board. Leighton Charles, it's going to be fiery tonight. This is Mr. Eglin Gomes there. Mr. Eglin Gomes is ready to rock and roll. He has been a member of the YSM, and that is the youth. And I think they move away with the socialist world. But Eglin is with us this evening. Also, I noticed people are saying that Mark going bald now. You didn't see when I had my hair, and I said I cut my own hair today, and I saved $40. Don't call baldness on me, please. Don't call baldness on me. Thank you so much. Christopher Johnson is also here with us this evening. Gentlemen, let me just welcome both of you. Somebody's mic, if you can unmute your mic, please, Mr. Johnson, we'll appreciate that. There you go. Thank you. This is Christopher Johnson's first time on Straight Up, but this is not Eglin Gomes' first time. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome.
Good night, Mark. Good night, Christopher.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Johnson. How are you?
Good night, Mark. Thanks for the opportunity afforded us this evening. And to our panelists also, Mr. Eglin Gomes, I want to say thanks for gracing us with your presence, and to your loyal viewers, Mr. Benchop, also thanks for having me here tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you much. And thank you for the energy indeed. Mr. Christopher Johnson, a former teacher. I'm not sure. Are you still teaching, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Are you still? You're still. All right. Thank you so much for your service and what you do. We'll get into that later on, but let's welcome Mr. Eglin Gomes. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Mark. I'm fantastic. It's the weather is great, and looking forward to all the possibilities. We the future is in our hands, and what happens tomorrow is predetermined by our actions today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eglin Gomes. And we have Mr. Christopher Johnson. The CJ stands for Christopher Johnson. Some of you, I don't see anyone who misbehaves in the section, the comment section, but you guys take it light tonight. Don't let your bumps raise. Some of you, that is. I know one and two of them bumps going to raise, but I'll be keeping an eye. Lemon will be keeping an eye, Lemon, on these folks. Good night to all of you. Tyrone Peters, how are you, sir? All right, let's get ready. First of all, again, let me thank all of you who have shared the link, and those of you who are watching us, whether in Guyana, outside of Guyana, and so forth. Mr. Johnson, give us a brief background as to who you are, other than a teacher. Let's hear what's going on. Give us a background about yourself.
I'm a concerned party member. I do have the capacity in some amount of business as a business entrepreneur, and I'm a career teacher. Apart from what's happening in the background in our political space, thus we have this conversation tonight. I've taken the initiative to not only voice my concerns, but also to put forward some suggestions as to what can be done to ease some of the difficulties that some of us face on the ground here today.
All right, well said. Mr. Gomes, give us a brief background of yourself, please, sir.
Mark, good evening. Basically, I work in the energy sector as part of the Con Edison's Clean Heat program. We are basically overlooking the transformation of renewable energy in New York and how we prepare for the growing climate change and how we can steps we can take to protect the environment and to preserve the environment for our future generations. And there is so much opportunities for nation states to get on board and to make renewable energy um, a an important policy initiative. There are so many benefits around the table. Governments can do more to supplement the current growing demand for energy. We know Guyana and GPL, they're always like musical chairs, and there's so much that can be done in the energy sector. And apart from that, being in my profession, I've always been I'm a concerned Guyanese who every day you look at the page and you look at the headlines, and you're left in awe because you want to know what's next for the future generation and our nation state. Um, we all have a role to play, whether we're at home or we're in the diaspora. We're all that big interconnected wheel, and we can be the change that we want to see in society. We just have to make sure that we make a conscious role and be part of that change, and in our little corner, whatever that is, make sure that we are so involved that what we do matters, and we can see that net effect for change in the wider society.
Thank you so much, Eglin Gomes, for us. At 17 minutes after 9 o'clock in beautiful Guyana. Um, come on, Jason, just calm down. We usually say don't let your bumps raise. Calm down and have some respect. Please, let's not go any wayward route because you will be dashed out. Lemon, keep an eye on him, please. Mr. Johnson, what's happening on the ground? Cost of living so high, people are punishing. Lots of things happening. Unemployment, young people not getting any jobs. Nothing is going on in the country. Tell us what's happening on the ground and how are people surviving under this corrupt PPP regime, sir?
Well, these are difficult times in the history of our country, and what we do today will stand a test to our next generation as to what we would have done for them. At this point in time, the government of the day would have employed a number of tactics, and those of us, we are actually feeling the squeeze. And this is quite evident in the media because we are standing on the eve of teachers' industrial action. We don't know how that is going to turn out within a couple of days. One of the largest budget in the history of our country. There's very tumultuous in the Guyana police force, and we've just done a withdrawal for 2024 of 250 million US dollars from the Natural Resource Fund. And we have pensioners who at this time are experiencing difficulty for much needing medication and for assistance. We have a number of youths who are in need of social programs to be able to provide some amount of guidance or direction to alleviate some of the stresses they actually endure on a daily. Now we cannot, make the teachers plight a situation where we can take very lightly, because the teachers are responsible for all the careers in our society. It had been made mention that for 2024, a massive 250 million US dollars to be deducted. And I would want to propose to the government how this 250 million US dollars can go directly into a 50% pay increase to all teachers. And if you can do the math, you know that 250 million US is equivalent to 50 billion Guyana dollars using the 200 exchange Guyanese rate. That it is also known to us that we have about 1,400 teachers. If you were to do the math there, that $50 billion divided by 14,000 teachers, we would have something about 300 and roughly, let's say, $3.6 million allotted to a teacher. And you can divide the 3.6 million over a 5-year period, and you can give each teacher is $750,000 per year, which equates to about $59,000 monthly to each teacher. So the average teacher salary in Guyana is about 120,000. So that 59,000 stacks up really nice and can bring much relief based on the high cost of living in Guyana.
Thank you so much, Christopher Johnson. He's a teacher by profession, and talking there about the numbers and why an increase of more than 6.5 is necessary, and the fact that we do have the money. Mr. Edwin Gomes, looking into Guyana, hearing about lots of the sufferation, of course, the punishment and discrimination and neglect by the corrupt PPP regime. What are you seeing briefly through your lens?
Mark, an overview would mirror that the PPP government, they are not planning infrastructure across the board with an inclusive approach. clearly every major capital project is being done in the Indo-Guyanese communities, and there's not this inclusive developmental approach um, by the government that is supposed to be government by the people for the people. And just recently, the vice president was making his veiled threats to those who would seek to hold the government accountable, stating that anyone can make promises. I recall not so long ago that the then PPP party, as a main component of the Guyanese political landscape, they promised the public servants a 50% salary increase, and it's deeply troubling that we see the amount of money that is being invested in an obsolete sugar industry that will not be profitable, that is living on the backs of the taxpayers and the taxpayers' revenue and our oil and gas revenue. I mean, Bar Jagdeo, with all his Russian economic background, would understand that any successful business or industry must be able to generate a profit. And at the rate the PPP government is carrying on, it's like the oil and gas revenue was specifically earmarked for the cushioning of their political base, and it is just wrong. And it's unfortunate that we have not seen a very proactive um, opposition that would be able to influence greater accountability by the current regime. Um, we need to see a more activist opposition that would be able to influence accountability and change and bring compromise from the government. But it seems as though the government just have this carte blanche approach to do as they feel like. We are building more hotels in Guyana than there would be the need for. Um, why is the government spending so much money on allocating lands when they should be developing suitable house lots to meet the growing demand from the working class, and for the working class and the wider population? I mean,
We'll stick a pin at that, Mr. Gomes, as we welcome our new listeners. 26 minutes after 9 o'clock, we're getting some energy here. Let's head straight back to Mr. Johnson. Mr. Gomes did say that not enough energy coming from the opposition in terms of confronting the corrupt and installed PPP regime. So many things they can be confronted on. Do you share that view that more can be done to confront the PPP regime?
Mark, quickly, before we go there, I would have scratched the surface when I made mention of pension. And to say that pension need relief, that is an understatement. The pension who would have worked all their lives for the betterment of this country, now that this country is experiencing such an economic boom, it is within us as a government to be able to provide this kind of financial relief to these citizens who would have worked their entire life. So I'm proposing that the pensioners be taken into context as a bridge to the future and what would have happened in the past, so that we would not repeat some of the ills of our society, and we can prolong and preserve their lives to a very enriched standard, because we are now in possession of good wealth and resources. So I would want to believe that that is one of the areas we will want to focus on. And what the opposition is preoccupied with right now, they're proposing a people-centered approach where more attention will be focused on such like persons, the senior citizens who would have worked hard and would have labored for this country, would have invested their entire lives. We also talked about the vulnerable in society, what social programs can be employed to bring relief, not only next week, but right now, because people are dying of these basic needs and we have the resources to provide that kind of a relief to them. Now, I want to commend Mr. Gomes because he would have made mention of his exploits in New York. While that is commendable, I must mention also that I would have had a stint out of Ghana where I would have worked, but I've acquired skills and knowledge, competencies that would have allowed me to return to Guyana and apply those skills and establish two very thriving businesses.
One second, before we get to all of that, again, the question, and with all due respect, do you believe the opposition is doing enough to confront the corrupt, install the illegal regime? That's the question, sir.
Let me say this before I answer that particular question. I would not want to be in a position where I'm speaking for the opposition directly.
You are not speaking, one second, you are not speaking for the opposition, you're offering your opinion. Do you believe, one second, Mr. Johnson, do you believe the opposition is doing sufficient to confront the ills or to confront the illegal PPP regime with all these things that's happening in Guyana?
Well, let me say this much. Given the tools available to the opposition at this time, I can safely say yes. Because those of us who are in North America and are not on the ground like I do.
Are you in North America? You are not. Are you currently in North America?
No, I'm not. But I'm saying those in North America might not be privy to the information as I do on the ground, right? What we've inherited as an opposition is a unique case. After the last concluded election, they were in amongst our ranks some great, I don't want to say animosity, but discomfort among the ranks. But we have not adequately addressed it then. But like all governments, all parties, I must admit we have some work to do in that regard to bring the base together. But we have a group of young, excited, talented leaders in our ranks who will feature in our slate when the election is called. And I believe they will give a good account of themselves. But as it is right now, the opposition is doing the very best that they can under the context or the condition that they have been placed.
Thank you so much for that direct answer. Mr. Eglin Gomes, same question. Do you feel the opposition is doing enough to confront?
Mark, in my humble opinion, I think the opposition has been failing the Guyanese population for the past couple of years. We have seen a very laid back approach to holding the government accountable. I can recall on.
If Mr. Gomes, if you can just speak up a little, please. I know you're from quarantine and thing, and shout them. Speak up, please.
Okay, Mark. I believe that the opposition is failing Guyanese. We have not seen any proactive action taken by the opposition, working together with the coalition platform to influence change and to hold the government accountable. Just to give you an example, when the then PPP government introduced fees at the University of Guyana, we did not just sit back and let it happen. there was a unified approach to force the government to rethink the policy, which led to affordable loans, which is still in place. I think um, there has been a number of issues that has affected the wider Guyanese population. And all we are seeing is empty talk about when we get into government. People are concerned about what is happening now. Um, they just the teacher strike. I think it could have been more effective in bringing the government to some form of workable compromise and not just talk. Um, like the vice president said, anybody can promise, um, while he was making his veiled threats. Can you imagine for one moment if there was a united approach from all the political stakeholders and they were to support the teachers' demand and basically influence commerce on a grander scale across Guyana for a few days, what impact that will have on bringing the government to the negotiating table to want to discuss the economic realities of the hardships that the Guyanese middle class and less fortunate is being faced with very little hope. So my opinion is the opposition has failed Guyanese. They continue to fail Guyanese, and what we're seeing is just talk. And I'm hoping that we can see some new direction where Guyanese can exercise their constitutional rights and not be intimidated by the government, because not so long ago, when the shoes was on the other feet, it was the same PPP who was then in opposition that were exercising those constitutional rights without intimidation or the abuse of the executive under the coalition administration. So, to my mind, if if we had an effective opposition under the current leadership, we would have seen more compromise from the government, and we would have seen more accountability. So um, clearly, one would think that in the midst or the scheme of things, there is a vacuum, and we hope that we can influence some kind of change to bring the opposition to work together in the interest of our Guyanese people.
All right, Mr. Gomes holds the
Mark,
view. One
Mark,
second, one second, please, Mr. Johnson. Thank you. Mr. Gomes holds the view that the opposition is not doing enough. Let me just say, some of you, just the minority, are putting some lashes on Mr. Gomes. It's okay to put lashes, but let's keep it respectful, guys. Mr. Gomes, not so long ago, supported. He was on the mountaintop. Like probably even more than most of you watching this program here, listening to this program, he was on the mountaintop supporting Aubrey Norton for leader of the party. Nobody could have gotten in the way of Edwin Gomes and his leader, Aubrey Norton. Mr. Johnson, you're smiling. What's your take? Go ahead, sir.
I do not share my fellow comrade pessimism, because a legal process has been initiated by the courts. And as law-abiding citizens of the party, we have to allow the legal system and process to take its course. And until such time, I think it would be respectful to the lawyers and all parties involved to allow that process to run its course, and then we can take another course of action by some means of consultation to see how best we can move forward. But as it is, that legal process has been initiated. We have, I think, both young, talented lawyer Darren Waite and Mr. Ford would have, on some extent, shared the view of collaborating to some extent to see how best we can address the teachers' plight.
Absolutely. In my opinion, but I'm just here to get you guys' views. Nobody's bashing the party. You both are PNC members. Mr. Eglin Gomes is a long-serving member of the People's National Congress. He has been part of the YSM. Am I correct, Mr. Gomes?
Mark, I have been associated with the PNC and the youth arm of the party since the early 1980s. My whole family was entrenched with the Burnham policies. Um, I am a firm believer of the vision that the former founder leader had for the party, had for the country, had for the nation. The policies he developed were inclusive for all Guyanese, and even today, when we look around and to see what is going on, the Guyana's very development hinges on our ability to embrace the ideology of Lyndon Forbes Thompson Burnham, and where he brought us from, where he took us, and when he passed, where we were, and the very institutional structures we have in place today have all had its development and growth through the strong leadership of the founder leader and first executive president Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. He had a great relationship with the then opposition leader, the late Dr. Jagan. They worked together. They got compromise out of each other, regardless of the divisions. There was always a forward trajectory to develop Guyana for Guyanese. Somewhere within the past couple of years, we seem to have lost our direction, and for those who may be critical of my very frontal approach to the issues should first understand and do their research that I have been one of the foremost supporters of the current PNC leader, Aubrey Compton Norton. And my track record with the current party leader speaks for itself. We go way back in the leadership with the youth arm of the party. Um, when Aubrey Norton came to leadership, we all had our high expectations. And it is within that context, as far as management and accountability, I believe that the opposition should have done more to hold the government accountable and not the current sad situation we see today.
All right, the views of Mr. Eglin Gomes talking about holding the opposition accountable. Nothing is wrong with that in a democracy. There are some who agree, there are some who disagree with that. But I agree with you, Eglin, that we should hold all, not just the government or whatever. We expect more from the opposition to put that fight up there. And it's not a condemnation of the opposition at all. I am looking at some of your comments, and majority of them are responsible and respectful comments. And I would want to say that Jason Benjamin, we expect better from you, sir. You were once the president of the I believe the student body at the University of Guyana, be respectful of people's views, not because somebody disagrees with your view that you're going to jump and say that Edwin Gomes is looking for some position. We can elevate our discussion, Mr. Benjamin, and please elevate your discourse if you disagree with him. All right, so Mr. Johnson, we're touching in terms of the party's Congress, and I just want our listeners to know that
before you go there, I don't want this to go over our heads, because on the record, I don't think there are many.
One second. Let me just say this to Jason Benjamin again. I'm going to say this to you. We respect people on this show. You don't come here and tell anybody hush. I'm not going to speak to you about that again. All right? Let's agree to disagree. You don't come here and tell people hush. That's little girl's behavior. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, I've been saying I'm on the record, and I don't think there are many who could have been more openly opposed to Mr. Norton's leadership at a particular time. But what I understand, that he'd been given basket to fetch water. And with some consultation, we have gotten to a place where it is productive for us to devise a strategy where we can pick the party up from where we are presently with a progressive movement to a place where we are like now, where we can actually win an election. Now, you can have disagreements with anybody, but at the end of the day, I cannot trade a bad family member for a good on the opposite side. That does not sit well with me. So I've taken the stance that party comes first, and that's the principle that the founder leader would have established and would have instilled in many of us as youngsters by virtue of his messages, that as a comrade, regardless what the differences are, the party stands as a pillar and a representation of our people by ideological views, what we stand for. And because of those ideological perspectives, we can agree on putting the party first and have disagreements, but we must be able to advance the cause of the party. But what is perpetuated now by some of our senior members that, as a young man, I look up to them. It saddens me that in some views, they are so far from the principles established by the founder leader that the party principles come before any personality. So when individuals like my comrade sharing the space with me tonight talk about accountability and all of that, we have an election to win, and that's my preoccupation. And as a young Guyanese, I'm very focused, and I've outlined a number of concerns for the Guyanese people, and I know they can share those concerns with me because we on the ground are feeling the blunt of these atrocities and these discomforts meted out to us by the government. And we are strategically putting systems in place. And the opposition has initiated a number of new initiatives or plans. And one of those is the people-centered initiative, where more focus would be spent on enhancing the livelihood of our young people who are in vulnerable situation, single parent mothers, right? Youths who would have been able to get a second chance to go back to school and further their education. Pensioners who need a chance to have a livelihood now. We can provide that kind of a relief right now. And those are programs initiated. Also, one of the new and exciting programs is a rent to own initiative where someone can pay the same financial The same monies that you pay for a rent, but you're gonna pay that over a period of time, and then you eventually going to own that home. That initiative is phenomenal, and I'm looking forward for these initiatives to get fully on stream when we take government.
All right. Thanks for reminding us that you're a young man. CJ, you make me feel young as well. Um, Thank you, sir. Mr. Eglin Gomes. And I'm glad that Mr. Johnson has outlined that they are working on some things. Rent to own homes is it's an initiative that has been around for 50 something years. We hardly hear about that these days, though. But Mr. Eglin Gomes, go ahead. You need to add or subtract anything from what Mr. Johnson. We can disagree, though, with Mr. Johnson that we have an elections to win and to ensure that the PPP is out of office. Your take, sir.
Mark, I would like to commend young Mr. Johnson with his idealism and his vibrancy. Um, I think Mr. Johnson made some very salient points, but we cannot we cannot ignore the vacuum that is currently existing in the opposition. To win an election, we must have a very dynamic opposition, an opposition that is working on common tenets with shared values and working to hold the government accountable, bring the government to accountability, and we can talk from now till the chicks come home. If we if we don't have our own house in order, how are we gonna run a government when we can't fix our own house? I mean, each organization, civilized society is rests upon this success of uh, an effective organization, an organization that is managed based on rules, principles, shared values, and the common goal, yes, to win the next election. How are we going to win an election if we are not all on the same page, working with the same shared values, the same objectives, uh, observing the rules, our own institutional rules, as we seek to show the country that we are different from the PPP? We cannot just say when we get into government. We have got to demonstrate that we are not the PPP. We are different. We are working together to advance the cause of the Guyanese people as an inclusive society. Are we seeing that from the opposition? I mean, let's not kid ourselves or ignore the elephant in the room. We have got to fix the opposition. We've got to fix the leadership within the People's National Congress Reform Party, and so that we can get to that place where we can build a dynamic coalition. It re- the PNC by itself cannot win an election. I don't know if anyone has given thought to that. It is for that reason I supported Aubrey Norton 110%, because we all had this perception he was the ideal candidate to lead the main coalition partner to rebuild the coalition. But we just have to look back and see what happened in the last 2 years. So let us be let us be realistic and understand that we have got to embrace a solution that that can rebuild the coalition leadership, and to take it to that level where we can integrate it with the coalition partners to rebuild that interest that we had when the Granger administration came to power. unless we can arrest the decline that is currently existing, we're all kidding ourselves. And I understand persons are concerned about, my approach, but my approach to rebuilding the organizational structure is based on specific management principles, management and accountability. It is how we're going to get back into government. It is how we're going to hold the government accountable. We cannot have two standards and expect to hold the government accountable. We've got to start with our own house. And I hope persons can appreciate that and the reality that we will not allow a breakdown of rules in our own homes or in our own domestic environment. We would want to have the same shared values to work together so that we can build that coalition platform so that we can win an election. And that is the simple message I think everyone would like to see. I mean, we can't bury our heads in the sand and think that there's going to be a solution. And when we get into government, we have got to show the nation that we are different than the PPP, that we are open to accountability. We are open to working together to build a strong coalition. And I hope that our brothers and sisters can see that so that we can move the needle forward and be prepared for the next general election.
I'm not too. I'm a bit concerned as to what is so wrong with saying, look, because I'm not seeing anything where Eglin is saying that Aubrey is bad or the PNC can't win or whatever. He is not saying much difference from what you are saying as a middle-aged man, Mr. CJ, but you describe as a young man. It's okay. I've known you long enough, sir. But at the end of the day, we all want the same, which is to see the end of the corrupt PPP regime. Some of us may have different opinions, a different approach, and so forth, and it's okay. It's quite okay. So calm down, guys, and notice some of them bringing out their pitch acts and so forth and so on. Mr. Let's touch on, and we're having
Mark, before you go on.
1 second. We are having a constructive conversation here. This is not a program to bring anybody down. This is not to destroy anybody. We have two individuals who are PNCR members. Mr. Eglin Gomes has been there since donkey years. Mr. Johnson is also a member of the People's National Congress. They are both passionate. They disagree on some issues. It is okay in a democracy. All of us can eat Balanje every day. All of us can eat okro. All of us can eat baigani. You were saying something, Mr. Johnson. Go ahead, sir.
We must understand that the context of management and accountability is not in a vacuum. We have to understand also historical perspective. And I would expect my senior of almost 2 decades would be more knowledgeable on this issue. That during the 1960s split between founder leader and Jagan, that split was as a result of ideological differences.
Let me
that over time was exploited.
I've noticed some of the misguided comments from Marlon Braithwaite. This is not a program to bash anybody. Please be constructive and be sensible with some comments. This is not a program to bash Mr. Aubrey Norton. And if you can point, or anybody can point, where since we have started this program, that the objective is to bash Mr. Aubrey Norton. Stop with the nonsense, please. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson. Sorry about that.
Yeah, what is needed now? From then, those ideological differences have been used by ill means by the other side, and interject race into the political discourse. And we would have arrived at this point, and as sore as it is, we must understand and take those in context. But what is needed now, however, is a renewed spirit of those ideological perspective. And if we can say to the electorate, because these are the fundamental principles or the pillars on which the party stand, the education from nursery to tertiary, the mix of cultural and social identity that is supposed to take center stage at Mashramani. If we can say to the electorate that the celebration of Pagwa and Diwali is not just is not an indifference. It speaks to how our diversity as a different set of people, but still not, those differences are not indifferent. And we can use those differences to be able to understand each other more so that we can have a more broader or more inclusive governance, a little bit more tolerant of our people and our diversity. So that is what is needed in our political discourse. We also need maturity on the part of our leaders. And yes, I agree to some extent, the leaders or elected or elected officials must be held at a higher standard. You cannot underplay that. That must be. But on the other side, what has happened over the past 2 years, right? We need to be able to galvanize our base. And what would have happened on the conclusion of the last election would not have allowed us to be able to channel. And in this vast echo chamber, the weakness of our PR would not have allowed us to be able to channel those information to us so as to ease the stress and to address the concerns of the common man. But now we have a better time. And we're taking these initiatives step by step, grassroots activities to meet bottom house activities and talk to these people in the groups to let them know that we have arrived here because there was a breach in operational procedures. Those operational procedures to which my comrades spoke of, where we can address accountability and management. And the party is not short of the structure. We have the central executive and the general council. Those arms can put systems in place to effect the kind of change we so need in such a time.
All right, Mr. CJ, can disagree with you on the party structures and changes and so forth. Do you think that the structures of the party is working in the interest of democracy and transparency, Mr. Eglin Gomes?
Mark, the current structure is troubling because when the party leader, which I supported 110%, came to office, it was with specific goals and objectives to rebuild the party structure from the communities, to work together to unite the divisions and to create a more dynamic political institution. We are talking about the People's National Congress Reform Party, which is Guyana's premier political institution, the party of Lyndon Forbes, Sampson Burnham, that paved the way for the pillars of our economic development. Every social infrastructure that was developed was through the policies of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. We are children of Guyana's premier political institution. And I do not think the structure is working like it should, because The current level of management to rebuild the party and to integrate our greatest human resources seem to have a vacuum. We should be exploiting our greatest human resources that we have from within. And I'll give you an example. The former mayor of Georgetown, which I know no one can dispute, was our most populous mayor in recent time. He has been the mayor of the people, the mayor of the city of Georgetown, and the mayor for all the residents of Georgetown. How are we using him to help bridge the racial divide? How are we using him to cultivate a greater outreach into the wider communities? Um, are we utilizing our greatest human resources to develop the political institution or the premier political institution for governance, or are we allowing the divisions to cause us to fall behind while the PPP and its political machinery continues to dominate the political landscape? Unless we can work together and bring that level of management from inside of the party to revitalize the party, we are going to find ourselves at the crossroads and we would have missed the bus, because unless we work together and we can show that we are different as a political institution, the Guyana's premier political institution, which is a diverse party representing all Guyanese, working for all Guyanese to, to observe the party constitution and the party rules, to build on what Forbes Burnham gave us, we would be effectively allowing the PPP to dominate the landscape while we continue to fight inside rather than seeking to strengthen the political institution we have that was given to us. And that is where I am concerned about the juncture we are as under the current political leadership. The party's biennial congress was constitutionally due last December. There has only been two party general councils in 2 years, even though the party constitution specifically mandates that there should be one every quarter. So I think there is an opportunity for us to sit down, get the central executive together, look at the rules, look and see where we have failed, because if we say we did not fail, we would be being disingenuous. So I'm hoping that this would be a good opportunity for the central executive and the party leader to come together and revisit the Constitution and not delay the party biennial Congress until August, as some would like to see, because it's constitutionally due. We are preparing for an election, and the party leader is on record as stating that he enjoys the, 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 the confidence of the party. So if he is that convinced that he enjoys the confidence of the party, then hold the party's biennial congress as the party constitution requires or mandates. Do the things that the party constitution says you should be doing, and build the party institution expand on our human resources so that we can be prepared with the best human resources to defeat the PPP at the next elections.
All right. I think that the objective should be indeed to defeat the PPP at the next general and regional elections. We can't disagree with that at all, Mr. Gomes. With the 2 decades you've been in the party, what's your favorite part of the PNC's constitution, Mr. Johnson, that comes to mind? Your microphone, please. Yeah, your microphone, sir. Your favorite part
Before,
of the party's constitution.
before we go there,
Can we get your favorite part first, and then we will go where you want to go?
let me address something before it goes out of my mind.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Go ahead.
Comrade would have spoken of the young, vibrant mayor, whom I have a very good relationship. He was one of my students at the University of Ghana. But what I don't agree with is that he should be used as a political pawn to be able to bridge the political divide. I don't think that's his role or responsibility. And I'm quite sure he's well aware of his role and responsibility, but it's difficult to understand that senior member in our ranks would be able to narrow because of unique physical qualities to say that we're going to box you into that's your role and responsibility. We have a more broad-based approach, and his leadership, his charisma is much needed as an icon so that young people in society can look up to persons like that. And I believe he can be used or he can demonstrate those qualities to our younger generation, thus begging their participation into the political process. Now, as it relates to the Constitution, Mark.
Before you get to the Constitution, I was a little bit baffled as to what exactly you've said there about Obraj and Obraj's role. Whether anybody wants Obraj to build fill the gap and the racial. I'm not sure that I got that point.
I'm speaking based on what Comrade would have said. Yeah. That his role is to bridge the political divide. And I totally disagree with that because he's a Guyanese man and he's a Guyanese citizen.
Got
and I don't think physical attributes should be a part of a modern discourse in this political space.
That might be true, but we also have to face reality. And then I asked your favorite part of the Constitution, your party's Constitution. Give us a little bit.
Before I discuss that, I would like to ask.
No.
You're not gonna box me in, Mark. You're not gonna box me in. I don't want time to go by without me addressing.
1 second. I asked you the question. You guys are here as my guest. I asked the question. You said you wanted to talk about something else. I allowed you. I asked you the same question again. You say you want to talk about something else again. Please answer the question.
I don't have to answer the question the way you want me to. And I'm asking you, based on what the comrade would have said, give me the opportunity to have clarity on it. So I'm asking him, what is his role?
1 second. You're talking about democracy. We're talking about change and so forth. I brought you here as a guest and I've respected you, both of you. I've asked a simple question. If I ask Mr. Gomes the question, he will respond. What is your favorite part of your party's constitution, sir?
Mark, there are so many issues I can mention, but I would want to talk about your capacity and the importance of one person to one vote, and your commitment as a party to submit your resources to the development of the party and enrichment of the lives of your constituency. But what I want to ask my comrade, based on those principles, what role, if he is, to the party structure?
But,
Does he play any role
let
in the
me
party structure?
let me say this to you again, Mr. Johnson. I am the host. I ask the questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Um, 12 minutes after 10 o'clock. Let's move on. Jagdev said at his party's so-called meeting at Babujan that he's going to deal with his political opponents. How would you address Jagdev based on that threat of violence? Let's start with Mr. Johnson, please, sir.
Mr. Jagdeo has, over the years, used this particular forum to rattle up his base. As threatening as those rhetoric may seem, they should not be taken lightly. And the party must strategize at this time to be able to counteract any such occurrences that might cause threat to the livelihood of its citizens, not only of the party, but the country at large. Uh, I believe at this time, we must not just take the words of the former president as rhetoric. They must be taken seriously. And there are a number of approaches that can be taken. The Ethnic Relations Commission can be approached to be able to see what course of action can be taken if there are any breaches. We can also seek other legal means, legal position to see if any laws were breached or any such. But as it is, we must be vigilant and not take these rhetorics very lightly.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. It's over a week. Legal action should have already been taken. The party should have already written to the Ethnic Relations Commission. These things should have been made public. That's just how it is. And that's how opposition parties are proactive in confronting a dictatorship. We do have a dictatorship in Guyana. We do have a corrupt regime that is heading the government, and they must be taken to task at every level. Mr. Eglin Gomes, as we prepare to wrap up, what is your take on the threats of violence? I know you mentioned it briefly earlier, but what should be done with regards to holding Jack Dave, the dictator, the SOB, is that what you call it there? Yeah, accountable for his threats of violence there at Babujan?
Mark, I would have echoed the same sentiments that CJ just echoed, that one of the first steps the opposition should have taken is to initiate a formal complaint with the relevant authority to investigate whether or not the vice president violated the law. Based on the findings, there would have been institutional measures that could be taken that could set the stage for holding the vice president accountable. And I think the vice president feels comfortable saying whatever comes to his mouth because he knows there is no accountability. There is a level of lawlessness that is existing in the Guyanese society. The PPP government has been flouting the constitution and the constitutional rights of the citizens, and they have not been held accountable. And it is within that context I was referring to the former mayor when young Johnson may have misconstrued my intention when I said, how are we using the former mayor of Georgetown, who is known to be the people's mayor? You know, how are we using him to bridge the divide? It had absolutely nothing to do with his race. It has it has everything to do with his unique qualities as a leader, as someone who has worked closely with the residents of Georgetown, who has been able to reach the wider community and it is within that context, I would like to re-emphasize that what are we doing with our greatest human resources? Are we allowing them just to languish, or should we be using them right now as we seek to rebuild the party's institutional framework to 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 build a more dynamic organization so that when the time comes for us to be prepared for the general elections, we will have and we will be disposed to our greatest human resources. And because we are not holding the government accountable, the vice president feels empowered that he could say what he wants to say, when he wants to say, and whether he meant it as a veiled threat to those that seek to hold his government accountable. There are laws. And if he thinks that he's not subjected to the Constitution of Guyana, there are wider laws that he is subjected to. Because Bharat Jagdeo is not above the legal system. He may be able to shield himself behind the Guyana Constitution and his executive functions, but he can be held accountable in a different court. And he must understand that everything that comes out of his mouth is being recorded and can be used as evidence against him to hold him accountable if something untoward was to happen to the Guyanese citizenry. And it is within that context, I hope that our brothers and sisters can see the great need to come together. Let's repair what seems to be a deficit in the current leadership of the main coalition partner so that we can rebuild the coalition platform and be prepared for the next general election.
Mr. Eglin Gomes at 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. CJ, Christopher Johnson in Guyana. Mr. Johnson, as we prepare for our closing remarks, I want to, and we'll just stick it to the final question here. Congress is, in fact, Congress should have been held last year, the party's Congress. Some party members feel that it should be held now. Some feel that it should be held at the time Mr. Norton, the leader of the opposition and the leader of the party, said by August 31st. Address the issue of the holding of Congress as early as possible, how important that is in order for us to prepare, or the opposition to prepare for elections. Address that particular issue, please, sir, as we close off.
That's me.
Yes, CJ.
I would not take liberty on myself to absorb the space to speak for the entire general Congress and the central executive. The party has a structure, and I would have to allow the structure and the operational procedure to take its course. So at this time, I would make this my submission and allow the course, the natural operational procedure of the party to take its course.
Mr. Eglin, same question. Go ahead, CJ.
I was saying that those are very sensitive party issues, and strategically to be able to discuss certain sensitive information in the public domain would not speak well of me as a budding young politician. So I rest my case on that one.
Okay, so to say whether Congress should have been held last year when it was constitutional due or not is a private party matter.
but that's not within my domain to speak on.
Yeah.
There's a structure in the party that is highly recognized and endowed with those qualities and those privileges, and I should allow them to make those pronouncements when the time is necessary.
Thank you, CJ. Mr. Eglin Gomes, same question to you, sir, as it relates to the party's Congress.
Mark, I believe in the interests of democracy and the People's National Congress reform being the main coalition partner. The party should be leading by example. And Rule 15 of the party constitution specifically outlines the criteria for the holding of the party's biennial delegates congress, and it should have been held constitutionally. It was constitutionally due last December 2023. The party leader is on record as telling the nation that the general council that was held in November was going to make a decision on the holding of the biennial congress, and we should be in a perception to believe the leader of the main coalition partner, and we should be able to take his word. He said he wasn't a dictator. Those were his words to the media and to the nation. And one would have expected logically that if the PNC party leader, as the main coalition partner, tells the nation that the General Council of November 2023 was going to decide on the holding of his party's biennial Congress, that a decision would have been made by the Congress and that the nation would have been informed in the spirit of democracy. So, given that did not happen, I hope that the PNC leader can be encouraged to work with the central executive of the party to put in place mechanisms to convene the biennial delegates congress that is constitutionally due, and that it should not wait until August of 2024, because we have got to be prepared for the elections. And as it stands, the the coalition should be able to sit down and should be able to decide on a strategic path to contesting the next elections. And until we get the new executive installed, they, there there are other ramifications, and we hope that the party leader can be encouraged to make sure that his leadership abide by the party constitution, and without further delay work towards the holding of the party biennial congress, because holding it until August is detrimental to our national interests and to the interests of the coalition partners.
All right, Mr. Eglin Gomes, we lost Mr. CJ, Mr. Johnson there, but that was the final question indeed. I just want to thank Mr. Johnson as well, someone I've known for so many years. Um, and I have known you also for so many years. You guys don't disagree on a lot of issues. There are a few issues that you do disagree, and respectfully so. In a democracy, we'll find that. I've noticed some people probably may have missed the many years you have protested here in New York. You were protesting in front of the United Nations, in front of the Guyana consulate, all over you were protesting. Maybe some of these folks who are, um, are probably new to the protests may have missed you during those days, but it was always a pleasure speaking with you and also protesting in those days when the PPP under the PPP regime, hundreds of people were being slaughtered left, right, and center. And it's people like yourself who were out in the diaspora and those of us who were on the ground in Guyana fighting to ensure we see the back of the corrupt and murderous PPP regime. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Thanks to CJ as well. And thank you so much, Mr. Gomes. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark. Good night.
Thank you. And I just want to thank our listeners as well for tuning in with us this evening. And just to remember that this is the nature of democracy. And this is what 107.1 FM is about. It's not a PR station for anyone. It's just basically to exercise our democratic rights. Indeed, the party has their PR people. I'm not a PR for any political party, and so don't expect me to beat your drum for you. This is not a program to bring any of our guests to bash the leader of the People's National Congress reform, but to have a mature debate on the issues. And no one, Mr. Gomes did not bash Mr. Norton. And I don't see why you guys see dissenting views as bashing. People have a right to their views. One of the things that we can walk away with here is both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Gomes, and most of you there want to see the end of the PPP regime. The question is, how do we see the end of the PPP regime? If everybody is going to force all in the same box to think the same way, democracy doesn't operate like that at all. CJ is new to the political arena. He's getting there. Is someone that I've known over the years. We agree and we disagree, and we do that respectfully. And so with Mr. Gomes, we don't see eye to eye on every issue, but that is the nature of democracy. And that is what we have to understand, guys. We have to elevate the discussion. Mr. Johnson has said that his battery is low. Thank you, though, Mr. Johnson. We appreciate your time. Please don't be a stranger here on 107.1 FM. I looked at some of your comments. Indeed, you guys are passionate. The two elderly gentlemen, Mr. Johnson and our guest, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Gomes, are passionate elderly gentlemen. And I think that is what is needed, the passion to go into the next elections to see the back of the corrupt PPP regime. To all of you who have been listening to us in various forums, on the Village Voice News as well, good night. We thank you all so much. We'll have more of these sort of programs to work some of you guys up. Some of you are for, some of you are against. I noticed some call for, one person called for me to get the donkey tonight. It's okay. These things do happen. Emotions and bumps raised. It's all right. And since that person called for me to get a donkey tonight just to satisfy her, if this satisfies her, I don't know why she needs the donkey, but if it satisfies her. Quickly before we go, we heard that this guy, a relative of Sean Anthony Benn, sorry about that, guys, trying to recover from this call. I noticed Sean Anthony Benn is in the audience here. Sean Anthony Benn, this is his relative, Robeson Benn. Robeson Benn needs to learn how to talk to people, how to talk to the media, and so forth and so on. And maybe his cousin, who is on the live there commenting, one of the things with Sean Anthony Benn, sometimes you don't know when he's a PNC. When he's upset, he's not a PNC. When his bumps doesn't raise, he's a PNC. When his bumps raise, he's not a PNC. And then the other day, he's embracing his cousin, praising his cousin, Robeson Benn. Oh, Sean, I caught you there, right? But back to Robeson Benn here, though. Robeson Benn, something is wrong with this guy. Something. He's losing it. So please, Mr. Sean Ben, talk to your cousin. Talk to your cousin, please. He's losing it. He's probably aware that they are going to lose the next elections. Um, and that's it. They're going to lose the next elections. The opposition might have their issues, but don't be fooled. They are going to get their act together when they hold Congress, if they elect a new leader, whatever it is. And once there's a proper coalition and they decide on a presidential candidate and a prime ministerial candidate, hey, it's got to happen. We've got to see the back of the PPP. So don't get carried away and all emotional over some disagreements. There will be disagreements. When Mr. Orbie Norton was not the leader of the party, he disagreed with the leaders. He disagreed with them publicly. He disagreed with Hoyt. He disagreed with Mr. Corbyn. He disagreed with Mr. Granger. He disagreed with all of the leaders, and publicly too. So nothing is wrong with people disagreeing with leaders. It doesn't mean that they're working for the PPP. It doesn't mean anything less of an individual. But I do agree that if it gets personal, then it's a difference. There's a difference with constructive critique and bashing for personal reasons. So disagreements are okay. Other views are okay. And I want some of you guys in the audience to understand that. Some of you, not all. But for now, there's one other thing, sorry. You guys are aware of this here, right? The PPP has to come out and say what is happening here. Now, this guy, Vitesh Gupta, is 50 years old. 50 years old. Interpol's wanted man. He's living in Guyana. He's been operating a business for a while. He sponsored beauty pageant. He lived opposite the Duke Lodge, which is right next door to the Duke Lodge. Sorry, right opposite the U.S. Embassy, and he's wanted by Interpol. The PPP has to answer some questions: what they know about or what they knew about this man, and whether he is the holder of a Guyana passport. And secondly, is he the holder of a firearm license? And who issued it to him? The passport and the license. We'll touch on that later on tomorrow. Also, sorry, I know I had one other thing to mention, is the police. 88 shots at a car that happens to be, it was driven by a police sergeant. 88 rounds. And we are told that the officer in charge on that so-called beat is the officer who is allegedly involved in the shooting to death of Quinton Bacchus. 88 rounds, and they're still on the job. 88 rounds. Is it like a gang warfare among the Guyana police force? Brenda Casey, that's correct, Mr. Vaughn. That's a different story. Vaughn was shot and killed while they were hunting a wanted man. Friendly fire. No investigation on that, Brenda. Thanks for reminding us. But the other story happened on the east bank of Demerara. 88 rounds. 88 rounds. Thanks, Wayne Caesar. That was an execution. So do they have a gang warfare amongst the Guyana police force members, some members of the Guyana police force, where they are targeting and they're shooting to kill each other? Is it going to get worse? 88 rounds, and he is still on the job. Those cops are still on the job. And none of them actually hit the car, 88 rounds. Just imagine. Is the death squad back up and running again? 88 rounds. And this is where, again, I'm going to Sergeant Payne. Thanks, Bossman, or Bossman. 88 rounds. Yes, 88 rounds. And this is where I'm going to. And I have frequent discussions with the leader of the opposition. For some of you who feel that this program is about bashing him, we have a cordial relationship. And this is where, though, I would suggest to the opposition leader, they need to be more proactive on these issues. Not just press conference once a week or press releases. They need to be far more proactive. Get your party's newspaper up and running. get the party newspaper up and running, and hold frequent press conferences. The shadow minister of Home Affairs should have already called a press conference to outline the 88 rounds shot by a policeman or policeman in the direction of another policeman. Then a couple days prior to that, or before that, Police Sergeant Vaughn was shot and killed by a policeman. What is happening? And then not so long, ago, a couple days ago at Jack Day's press conference, he rebuked two senior policemen, acting commissioner of police and another senior cop, Brutus, about some deal they had applied for, a sandpit. All these things happening. Something isn't right, Mr. Otto Martin. Something isn't right. And this is where, again, for some of you who are in, Aubrey, that is not going to win any elections. Aubrey is not going to win any elections. We need to do more than And don't think that somebody who said nay for the moment is a hater or a basher. They may mean more good to the party or to the leader than those who jumping on a mountaintop every minute and holler, and so we leave tonight with that. I love you guys. I love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on the station, 107.1 FM. 88 shots, guys, 88 shots. Maybe later on down this week, I'll ask Mr. Aubrey Norton to come on with us, and we'll rename this program, right, Tony Hack? We'll call it, I'll check with my good friend Wayne Caesar. We'll change it to Look, some of your comments are okay. Some of them were deleted because I think it was getting a little too personal. We've got to remove ourselves from the personal comments indeed, but don't feel any way about it. We are still all in the same boat. We want the same result. We may have different strategies, but let's respect those strategies. And one of the things we try to encourage on this show is let us respect each other. We fight the trench crappos when they come in, but we've got to be easy with each other at times, right? Even when our bums raise at times. Right? I love you guys. God bless you. And I gotta make sure that my little cough and cold gets away. Probably I'll invite Mr. Caesar on for tomorrow. And then I noticed Marlene Braithwaite should be bad in the comment section, man. I don't know why she just don't call up Eglin and squash this thing and done. But Marlene, yes, I will invite Mr. Aubrey Norton. In fact, he and I spoke not so long ago. He did say, as always, he's willing and ready to appear on the show. So we'll have him here so that we could all just in the comment section, forget about anything else, right? Forget about their party constitution, forget about structures, forget about everything, right? Sorry, guys. I love you all. And thanks to our guest, Mr. Eglin Gomes. He's a good guy. He's very passionate. He's brave also. He goes out and he protests. Trust me, he does that. And he goes to Guyana too as well. He protested in the days when many people were afraid to even show their faces. Thank you, Eglin. And to our teacher, Mr. Johnson, Christopher Johnson, thanks to him as well for his service as a teacher to the nation. And he's a country guy from Leeds Village, number 51 village on the quarantine. So they're all connected to me. And I just, in the interest of this disclosure and transparency, we're all connected, both of them. So no hard feelings. We're all connected. Thank you guys so much. I've got to go. We'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. Listen to Auntie Data on this. Sure, right? Yeah. People in easy. Good night, guys.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata, Francis E. Wakenham, and Since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Box on, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants, big body jump.
With another one, straight up, Black Messiah. Aye, who tell the truth? Margaret stop, defend the ghetto youth. Margaret stop, registration is the fruit. Margaret stop, straight up from the root. Margaret stop, who tell the truth? Margaret stop, defend the ghetto youth. Margaret stop, registration is the fruit. Margaret stop, straight up from the root. Margaret stop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up and stop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can need it, don't contact the cripple can walk. Who tell the truth? Margaret stop, defend the ghetto youth. Margaret stop, registration is the fruit. Margaret stop, straight up from the root.